In this video, I want to take the notion of hypervigilance and discuss the three primary questions or instincts or impulses involved with hypervigilance. Basically, what we do when we are threatened, when we are surprised, when we are disappointed. And the basic responses that we have are fight, flight, or freeze. And again, as we discussed in the last video, that occurs from time to time. In hypervigilance, that question persists and continues. So if you think of the soldier who is in a combat area and they are patrolling a dangerous section, they are asking themselves continuously, should I fight? Should I flee? Should I freeze? These questions generally come very quickly in moments of danger, but in hypervigilance, they persist continuously. And you are always trying to be aware and ready to do one of those three. And the reality is that that's a very unhealthy way of living, and it's not something that we can sustain. Hence, when the soldiers would return from deployment after 6 months or more, they were all struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder because they were hypervigilant for too long. And so their bodies lost the natural ability to address those in a timely fashion and respond in a healthy way and recover from those challenges. What I'd like to do right now is to help you think through what is your basic response to risk, to uncertainty, to fear. And the three, fight, flight, and freeze, they're all good, they're all fine. Some are more helpful in moments than others, but really it depends on the moment, not the instinct itself. What's important to be mindful of is we all have our inclination, how we respond to high levels of stress, how we respond to anxiety and uncertainty. Pretty much everyone has their go-to response. Right now, I have a lot of people looking for stuff to do. They need to help somebody. They need to get something done. They need to be productive. It's fair to say that those folks are dealing with high levels of hypervigilance by fighting. I got to get something done. I got to do it. I got to fight. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to be mindful that that's your response. That's your basic impulse. You may do the other two at some point. They might be better choices sometimes. Whatever it is for you, it might be the best choice at that moment. The key here is just to understand which one fits you. So if you're reading the paper and all the different COVID stories and watching the television and listening to people and talking on the phone and hearing all these terrible things, and your basic impulse is to hide, to lock all the doors, then your basic impulse is to flee. Again, that's not a wrong response. It's your response. Part of the resiliency model is to recognize, to understand how you cope with stress, how you interact with these things, so that you can be mindful and aware of what's happening. Again, if you really need something to do to help people all the time, there's nothing wrong with that. It may not be the best way at certain moments of coping with stress, but it's yours. It's your basic response. The third one is freeze. And the freeze response sometimes can look like no activity, but what it really is the ability to not respond, to watch, to wait, to look, to attend. You're not running away. You're not fighting. You're watching. You're wondering. That happens to be mine. That's how I respond to high levels of stress, is I freeze. And I know this because in college we were held up at gunpoint in the store that I was working at. And I watched people flee, and I watched people fight, and I watched people respond. I found myself being very calm. I learned something about myself and stress at that moment. That's my response. I'm there. Be mindful of what your response is. So right now, if you just need something to do, if you've got to get something done, if you need to help somebody, or you need to be critical of somebody, or to tell somebody how to do things, your response to stress is to fight. If you want to go hide in the closet and take the phone off the hook, it's to flee. And again, it's not the wrong response. It's your response to stress. And to become mindful of that is very important. And if it's to freeze, well, realize that at some point you will have to act. At some point you may need to back off from what you were doing. But your moment of inactivity is your response. It's not that you're doing nothing. It's that you're watching and looking. Fight, flight, and freeze.